Buff versus wax. People misuse these words all the time, and as a detailer, it can be frustrating as all hell. For example, I'll have a customer on the phone and I'll ask them, are you concerned about any scratches, swirl marks, or paint imperfections in your paint? Customer will respond and say, I have no concerns for the paint, it just needs a good buff. What the f does that mean? Buff, it just needs a good buff. That's way different than just a wax. And if you have no concerns for your paint, why would it need to be buffed? It doesn't really make much sense. So in this video, I'm gonna give you a quick breakdown of the difference between a wax and a buff. And this way you know exactly which terms to use when talking with a potential detailer. And this way you are not misinformed and you can set up realistic expectations for yourself and avoid being disappointed when you are asking for the wrong service for your vehicle. So let's say your car needs a buff. That means we gotta use this thing. We gotta buff your paint with a machine. And that's to remove swirls, scratches, paint imperfections, things that's in your paint that you don't want to be there. Now, waxing, on the other hand, is something completely different. When your paint surface is already perfect, we put a wax on it to protect it, add a little bit of shine, but your car should already be shiny before applying a wax. Now, this is a little old-fashioned. People don't really use that stuff anymore. You can use a spray wax or sealant, which lasts just as long. It's much easier to apply. And when you apply a wax, remember the old school waxes, the paste waxes, the stuff that comes in a can, you let it get all chalky and dull on the paint, and then you wipe it off, and then sometimes you get all that milky white residue and all the seams and everything around your emblems and in between the creases of the doors and whatnot. Now with spray sealants and waxes, you don't really get that problem anymore. You might get a little bit of streaking, but at least you can wipe it off, level it out much easier and not have all the hassle of waiting for a paste or liquid wax to get all hazy before applying it. Now both traditional waxes like the one I showed you before and the spray wax, they all have their place and purpose. It doesn't matter which one you use, but typically you can find a sprayable protectant that you can apply to the paint and it lasts much longer than your traditional wax. So why deal with all the hassle of that messy, pasty, liquidy stuff getting all over the place and getting all hazy and chalking up in all the creases and everything? It's just old fashioned. You don't need to do it. If you want to do it, you want to use it for the nostalgia of using a traditional wax, you definitely can. And there are some old fashioned style sealants that you can apply to the paint that do last a very long time. But there is definitely more of an abundance and cost effective use to use something that is sprayable. Now that we know what the difference is between a wax and a buff, I'm going to show you the difference in action. I have this Volvo right here behind me. We're going to wax one side of the hood and we're going to buff the other. And I'm going to show you what the difference is so you can better understand it and see what it is that you need. All right, so we have the hood of this Volvo here. You can see some minor little scratches, some dullness in the paint. I'm going to put some tape down the center of this hood. I'm going to wax one side to show you what waxing can do. And on the other side, I'm going to show you what buffing can do. So on the left over here, we're going to be using some Turtle Wax spray wax. Shake it up. Couple mists. And as easy as that. No huge notable difference. The car is in pretty good shape, but all that will do is provide some hydrophobic protection on the paint to help keep the paint from fading and also to help keep the paint clean. There's still scratches there. You can still see some staining, some various water spots, and a little hard to pick it up, but there are still some scratches in the paint. Yep, you can see it right here. As you can see, there's some scratches, a couple little nicks. Now, some of this is not removable, and we're only going to give this a mild polish, as in we're not going to use anything too intense to remove deep defects. But just so you have an idea of what buffing is, here's a general idea. So we've got the Rupes with the orange pad, which is designed for removing light to moderate defects, along with some Menzerna medium cut. All right, so as you can see, we polished the paint. There's usually a lot more involved with doing a true paint correction or a true buff job, as in removing deeper defects and trying to achieve the best possible shine and removing, obviously, as many defects as humanly possible. So we're gonna remove all this compound. With this process, this wasn't anything too aggressive, but I'll show you what the result is just from that right there. So this is the side that was just waxed. As you can see, there are tons of little water spots, just like etching. You can also kind of hear how rough it is. And you can see how this light here is a little distorted and cloudy around the outside edge. That's because this was not corrected. It was not buffed. It was only waxed. Now you can look over here. We have a little bit more clarity on this light. And you can also hear how squeaky clean it is. It's all rough, nice and smooth. So obviously still some scratches. This wasn't an intense polish by any means, but you do get more clarity in the paint, and a lot of surface scratches were removed over here. As we go up this other side of the hood, where I did not buff anything at all, you can see there's lots of water spots. The paint still feels really rough. And over here, paint is really smooth and a lot more shine to the paint. Now back to misusing the words buff versus wax, I will also get customers reaching out sometimes and they will say, hey, my paint feels really rough to the touch. I got scratches, I got paint imperfections. It needs a really good wax. Again, nothing wrong with customers not understanding the terminology, but waxing is strictly for protection, like we did over here. We applied protection to the paint. It adds a little bit of shine and it protects the paint from harmful UV rays and also helps keep it clean. Buffing removes paint imperfections and also removes water spots. It also can remove some contamination. A lot of this was, believe it or not, clayed before doing this demo. So there's a lot more involved with buffing and correcting and perfecting your paint. Wax is strictly for protection. If you were confused before about what a wax is or what your vehicle needs when it is scratched up or there is contamination on the paint, hopefully this video cleared some things up for you. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to drop it one of these, and until next time, I'll see you on the next one.